Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive. Tonight's story is titled, Her Wings at Dusk. Let the shadows speak.
Part 1. The Girl by the Tracks. I wasn't supposed to be there. That's what I kept telling myself, standing under the blinking streetlight outside Holloway's Grill, the only bar left open past midnight in our college town. The summer air was sticky with that mix of cut grass, spilled beer, and something burnt. It always smelled burnt near the train tracks. My name's Theo Mercer, 19. Second-year journalism major. Not the daring kind, if that's what you're thinking. Not the type to chase ghosts or hunt monsters. Hell, I still leave a night light on sometimes. But I'm telling you this because what happened, it's real. I didn't imagine it. I didn't drink that night. Ask my roommate Jamie. We were supposed to be celebrating his last game of the season. He's the kind of guy everyone likes. Big smile, bigger personality, and the kind of heart that makes people feel seen. Jamie dragged me out to Holloway's, saying I needed to breathe the outside air and talk to someone who wasn't a source or a syntax professor. I'd stepped outside to take a breather from the noise. That's when I first saw her. She was standing by the old train crossing, right where the woods kissed the edge of the pavement. Her back was to me, and for a second I thought maybe she was just another student out for a smoke. But then I noticed she wasn't moving, not even a shift of weight. No phone light, no cigarette glow, just stillness. I remember the street light above me flickering hard, buzzing like a dying fly. I squinted, trying to make out her shape. Slender, hair past her shoulders. And then, she turned her head just a little, enough for me to see one eye. It caught the light in a weird way, like glass soaked in ink. Something told me to go back inside. But you know how curiosity works. It starts as a whisper, then it hooks claws into you. And something about her wasn't just strange. It was sad. She looked like someone waiting to be punished. So I walked toward her. "Hey," I called. "You okay?" She didn't answer, but I noticed her hand twitch slightly, like she hadn't expected anyone to speak to her. "You need help or something?" I tried again. She turned fully then, and I swear for a moment the shadows behind her seemed to shift, like they weren't just trees but something draped around her. A long pause. "I'm fine," she said finally. Her voice was soft but cracked. "You shouldn't be here." Something about the way she said it made me pause. "You're standing by the tracks alone in the dark," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "I think I've earned the right to worry." She tilted her head. "Do you believe in mercy?" That caught me off guard. "Oh, like forgiveness?" She nodded. "Or being spared?" "I guess, yeah." She looked down at her own hands, and for a second I thought she was crying. But no, her face was dry. It was just that her skin, even in the poor light, looked damp, like she'd walked through rain that hadn't touched anything else. "I used to hope for mercy," she said. There was a sound then, faint but deliberate, like feathers brushing metal. I looked past her, but the woods were still, dead still. Before I could say anything else, Jamie's voice called from behind me. "Yo, Theo, you ghosting me again?" I turned, waving. "Be right there." When I looked back, she was gone. Not walking, not running, gone. I ran to where she'd been standing. Nothing. No footprints. Just the low hum of power lines and the far-off groan of a passing freight train. The next morning, I woke up to a note under our door. No envelope, no name. Just a folded piece of paper with 5 words scribbled in dark red ink. "You saw her, didn't you?" I stared at it for a long time. Jamie was still passed out, so I walked to the tiny campus library. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly. Urban legends, missing persons, unexplained deaths near the tracks? All of the above? That's when I met Elle. She was behind the front desk, hair in a loose ponytail, sleeves rolled to her elbows. There was something sharp about her, like she saw everything and judged half of it, but not in a mean way. Like she expected people to lie and preferred it that way. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said without looking up from her keyboard. "Maybe I have." She raised an eyebrow, finally glancing up. "You're not the first." That made me pause. "Excuse me?" She stood and walked to a nearby filing cabinet, rummaging through the chaos until she pulled out a thin yellow folder. She handed it to me like it was something heavy. I opened it. Inside were 4 clippings. One from 1998, one from 2003, one from 2011, and one just last fall. All were reports of missing students, each last seen near the train crossing behind Holloway's. "What is this?" "Local lore," Elle said. "But the library's been keeping unofficial records. For, reasons." I didn't know what reasons meant, but I nodded anyway. "I think I saw her," I said quietly. "Last night." She asked me if I believed in mercy. Elle's face went pale. She slowly sat down. "She spoke to you?" "Yeah." "Why?" "Because usually she doesn't say anything." That night I found another note. This one was inside my room, sitting neatly on my pillow. Same handwriting, same red ink. "She chose you." I didn't sleep. Not a second. Part 2. The Hollowing. I skipped classes the next morning. Not something I usually do. I'm the type to show up even when I'm sick. But there's a difference between being sick and being haunted. Jamie didn't notice. He'd left early for morning workouts. But I couldn't stop staring at the second note. "She chose you." I didn't know what that meant, not really, but it made my stomach feel hollow. Like something had already been taken from me, and I hadn't even noticed it was gone yet. I shoved the note in my backpack and walked straight back to the library. Elle saw me coming and just sighed. "I knew you'd be back," she said, pushing her chair away from the desk. "You look like someone who's about to try and explain something unexplainable." "I need more than articles," I said. "I need the full story." Elle stared at me for a moment, then glanced around. The library was dead silent, just the hum of AC and the distant whir of a printer. "Follow me." She took me down a narrow corridor behind the archives, one I'd never noticed before, and into a room with no label, no sign. Inside was a wall of old records, laminated photos, and 3 binders stuffed full of newspaper clippings and student testimonies. "This is the Hollowing file," she said. I looked at her. "The what?" "They call her the Hollow," Elle said quietly. "Some say she was a girl who died near the tracks. Others say she's something older, wearing someone young. Doesn't really matter anymore. What matters is what she does." I slowly opened one of the binders. Dozens of handwritten notes, strange symbols, photocopies of missing person flyers. "Each time she appears," Elle continued, "someone disappears. Always during the new moon. Always the same place." "Why me?" I whispered. "She doesn't pick randomly. At least, that's what we think. And these notes, she only leaves them for the chosen. No one else sees them. Believe me, people have tried. They vanish if someone else looks." That made me stop. "What?" Elle nodded. "I had a friend. She tried to show me the second note she got. It crumbled in her hands, turned to ash before she could finish reading it aloud. I reached into my bag and pulled mine out, holding it like a lit match. Elle didn't try to touch it. "I don't want to know what happens if I do," she said. We spent the next hour going through the testimonies. Most were scribbled from memory by students who had claimed to see a girl by the tracks. A few had tried to follow her. Most backed out. One student, a sophomore from the class of 2011, described being hugged by the girl. He said her hands were cold, her skin leaking blood through invisible pores. His story ended mid-sentence. Elle leaned closer. He wrote this the night before he disappeared. I swallowed hard. What happens if I talk to her again? Elle shook her head. Nobody knows. Some think it's a curse. Others think it's a kind of recruitment. For what? She hesitated. That's what scares me, because we think she was human once, and now she's not. That night, Jamie knocked on my door while I was staring at the ceiling, sleep nowhere in sight. Hey man, you good? Yeah, I lied. You sure? You've been weird since the bar. I mean, you're already kinda weird, but now you're extra. I tried to smile. Just tired. He nodded slowly, then sat on the edge of my bed. You ever heard of a girl near the tracks? I asked. He raised an eyebrow. What, like homeless? No. More like someone people see and then they don't come back. Jamie leaned back, rubbing his jaw. There's a rumor. Athletes pass it around sometimes, like a local boogeyman. They say if you make eye contact with her, she follows you in dreams. She talked to me, I said. Jamie went quiet. Then, dude, that's not good. I think I'm being marked. Jamie looked down. My cousin went to Holloway's. He vanished sophomore year. Just never came home. His roommate said he saw him talking to someone in a white dress, barefoot, near the tracks. At midnight, they never found a body. For once, Jamie didn't have anything funny to say. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up choking. Not from a dream, but from the taste of something metallic in my mouth. I scrambled to the mirror and turned on the light. Blood. A thin stream from my nose, my gums, even the corner of my eye. There, taped to my mirror, was another note. IT begins with blood. I stared at the reflection, my face pale and streaked red. My vision blurred again, and for a heartbeat I saw her behind me. Not in the room, in the mirror. And just like that, gone. I returned to Elle the next morning, hands shaking. I think I'm being hollowed, I told her. She looked at me, then slowly nodded. That's what we call the process, the hollowing. When someone's chosen, it starts with small signs, bleeding, shadows, dreams. Then the shift. What's the shift? The breaking point, the moment when your body begins to change or disappear. I stared at her. You said she was human once. Do you know her name? Elle exhaled slowly. Yes, she said. I think her name was Miriam Vale. Part 3. The name beneath the skin. Miriam Vale. The name sat in my head like a weight, something old and swollen with meaning, like a word you remember hearing in a nightmare but can't quite place. It didn't sound threatening. It sounded soft, almost too human, which made it worse. I was sitting across from Elle in a quiet corner of the library, the binder of testimonies splayed open between us. She had her arms crossed, her fingers drumming lightly on her elbow. Even she looked unsure now, and I was starting to hate the fact that I trusted her. Who was she? I asked. Elle pulled a yellowed folder from her satchel. This one looked older than the others. Worn edges, curled corners, stained like it had survived a flood. She was a student here, Elle said, voice low. In 1973. That made me freeze. You're telling me this thing has been around for over 50 years? At least, she said. And back then she wasn't a monster. She was just another freshman. Quiet. Kind. No real record of friends except one. Her roommate, Deidre LeClaire. She handed me a sheet of paper, an old black and white yearbook photo. Two girls, one smiling, one not. The girl on the right had long hair parted in the middle. Sad eyes. I recognized her. That's her, I said. Miriam Vale. She vanished her second semester. No body, no trace, no witnesses, except Deidre, who ended up in a mental facility 3 years later. She left behind a journal that wasn't recovered until decades after her death. Elle slid me another folder. Inside were photocopies of fragile, shaky handwriting. She came back different. Her shadow lagged behind her. Her voice echoed when it shouldn't. She bled through her skin. She smiled with pity, like she knew I'd be next. I swallowed hard. The sky was too quiet the night she changed. I heard wings. I heard bones cracking and feathers tearing. But I never saw what did it. I only saw her after. That line repeated in my head. I only saw her after. What happened to her? I asked again. What turned her into that? Elle shook her head. That's the one part no one can answer. Something happened in the woods. Some people think it was a ritual. Others think she saw something she wasn't meant to survive. I leaned back, pressing my hands against my temples. So what am I supposed to do? I asked. If she chose me, what does that mean? Am I supposed to become like her? Or just die? Elle hesitated. Then quietly, maybe both. That night I told Jamie everything. He didn't laugh, didn't joke, didn't roll his eyes. He just listened. When I finished, he leaned forward, his hands clasped. Then we find out what she wants, he said. How? We go back to the tracks. We waited until the new moon. Midnight. Same place. Jamie had a flashlight. I had the last note taped to my notebook. The red ink had started to fade, like it didn't want to be remembered. The air near the tracks felt colder than it should. The trees didn't sway even though there was wind. Everything was still. And then we heard it. Wings. Not flapping. Not beating the air. Just dragging. Like something heavy scraping the sky. Jamie grabbed my arm. You see her? I turned. And there she was. Miriam. She stood where the gravel met the forest, barefoot, hair moving without wind. Her face was pale, almost translucent. And her eyes, those eyes, weren't sad this time. They were full of something else. Resignation. Jamie raised the flashlight. What do you want from him? She didn't blink, didn't flinch. He's already begun, she said softly. Her voice was strange, like it had two layers. One old and broken, one younger human. What does that mean? Jamie asked. He dreams in blood now. He sees the hollow places in himself. I tried to speak, but my throat locked. My skin was buzzing, numb and hot at the same time. He's the next, she whispered, and I'm so sorry. She stepped forward. Jamie moved in front of me. Back off. Miriam didn't stop. Her wings unfurled behind her, long, spindly things like broken umbrellas. The feathers were ruined, soaked and matted with blackened blood. The smell of rot filled the clearing. You don't understand, she said. I don't want this, but it happens. Every time. Jamie grabbed the flashlight tighter, his jaw locked. We'll fight you if we have to. I wish you could, she said. Then she looked directly at me. Theo, she said gently, you can still speak. You can still choose. I don't understand, I croaked. Choose what? To let go. Her wings twitched. To stop fighting the change. Suddenly, my vision split. I saw flashes of her past, like lightning behind my eyes. Miriam kneeling in the woods, bleeding from her hands. Chanting voices. A circle of figures in dark robes. A wound opening in the sky. I felt it tear through her, and I felt it slip into me. When I came to, Jamie was shaking me. You okay? Miriam was gone. So was the light. So was the warmth. Later that night, I found something on my chest. A faint outline. Not a bruise. Not a scar. A pair of wings burned into my skin like ash. Part 4, Becoming Hollow. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, though I was, but because every time I closed my eyes, I could feel something moving beneath my skin, like threads tightening, or wings unfolding inside my ribs. By morning, my body felt foreign, heavy, but not with pain, with presence. There was something in me now, and I didn't think it was Miriam. Jamie drove us to a clinic outside town. He insisted. "You need blood work," he said. "You might have been drugged, poisoned, hell, radiation exposure. I don't know. But this isn't normal, man." I didn't argue, but I already knew the results wouldn't matter. The nurse couldn't find a vein in either arm. She jabbed me 3 times before frowning and stepping back. "I'm sorry, your skin's thicker than it should be. Are you taking any medications?" I shook my head. She tried again. Still nothing. Finally, she gave up and said they'd call me when the labs came back. But I knew there'd be nothing to find, nothing they could understand, because something was replacing me from the inside out. That night, I bled again, but this time it came from my back. I woke up drenched in sweat and stuck to the sheets. When I reached behind me, my fingers came back slick and dark. I rushed to the bathroom mirror and turned around. There, just between my shoulder blades, were 2 tiny slits, skin torn open like fresh cuts. I could see movement beneath them, like something pressing outward. I screamed. Jamie broke down the door 5 seconds later. Al met us at the library basement again, the hollowing file open and spread wide. I didn't sit. "I'm changing," I said. "It's not in my head. It's in me. Physically." Al looked shaken, but not surprised. "There's a stage," she said softly. "We think it starts with the markings, then the bleeding, then the hollowness." "What's that mean?" "Loss of weight, of emotion, of memories. The people who get this far, they stop eating, stop sleeping, stop feeling, until they're not human anymore." Jamie swore under his breath. Elle pointed at a photo in the file. A black and white image of a gaunt man with hollow cheeks and wide, blank eyes. "His name was Callum Brandt," she said. "He wrote his own obituary 2 days before he disappeared." I scanned the file and saw a single line underlined in red ink. "There's no death, just vacancy. Can it be stopped?" I asked. Elle looked down. "I don't know. No one's ever come back from it." I spent the next few days documenting everything. Body temperature, 92 degrees Fahrenheit. Heartbeat, 42 BPM. Appetite, gone. Memory, fracturing. I couldn't remember the names of my professors. I forgot my own birthday. One night, I called my mom and hung up halfway through the conversation because her voice sounded like static. Something inside me wanted detachment, wanted silence, but something else, some dying sliver of self, still fought. And that's when the dreams started. In the dreams, I walked through a forest of bones. The sky was purple. The trees were hollowed out torsos. And somewhere ahead, always ahead, was her. Miriam. Only now I saw her clearly. Her wings weren't wings. They were ribs, split wide and reshaped into something flightless, jagged, and wet with old blood. Her eyes weren't sad anymore. They were empty, not like someone who'd lost hope, like someone who'd never had it. She didn't speak in the dreams. She just pointed at me, at my chest, where a hole had begun to form. I woke up on the floor, shirt soaked, breathing shallow. I tore it off and stared at my chest. Right over my heart, a black circle was forming. Not a bruise, not a burn. It was a hole. A perfect, ink-colored absence in the shape of a coin. Jamie came running when he heard me crash. "Jesus, Theo?" He stopped when he saw it, and then something changed in his face. He didn't just look scared anymore. He looked afraid of me. Elle told us to meet her somewhere different. Not the library. A storage building near the edge of campus. She said it was safer there. That fewer people meant fewer questions. But when we arrived, she was already inside, with someone else. A woman, mid-40s. Well, dressed in layers like she didn't trust her own warmth. "This is Professor Langley," Elle said. She used to teach folklore here, until she started saying things the administration didn't like. Langley nodded once. "I know about the hollow." I sat across from her, feeling the weight in my chest grow colder. "You've seen her?" I asked. Langley didn't blink. "I was her." I stared. Jamie did too. Langley chuckled softly. "Not the way you think. I was chosen like you, 30 years ago. But I found a way to delay it." Delay? Not stop. There is no stopping. But the hollowing can be resisted. Slowed. How? She leaned in. By giving it something else to feed on. Part 5. Blood for the hollow. I stared at Langley like she'd spoken in another language. "Feed it something else?" I repeated. She nodded. "The hollowing needs fuel. When you start transforming, it pulls from your soul, your memories, your humanity. But if you give it a substitute..." Jamie cut her off. "You're talking about hurting someone, aren't you?" Langley didn't blink. "I'm talking about survival." I leaned forward. "Explain." She folded her hands, resting her elbows on the dusty table. "There are 3 stages of hollowing. First, the symptoms: bleeding, memory loss, emotional numbness. You're already there. Second, the anchoring. That's what you're entering now, the part where it starts carving space inside you for something else." I touched the black spot over my chest. "And the third..." Langley's mouth went tight. "Assimilation. When you become a vessel. For her. Or whatever she serves." The silence in the room was thick. Even Jamie stopped pacing. "So what's the substitute?" I asked. Langley's eyes flicked to Elle, then back to me. "A person." Jamie slammed his hand on the wall. "No, absolutely not." Langley didn't flinch. "It doesn't have to be fatal. Not always. The hollowing wants pain. It wants essence. If you siphon off something meaningful from someone close to you..." "You mean trauma?" Elle said quietly. Langley nodded. "A piece of someone else's soul. Their memories, fear, confusion. If you take that on yourself, it diverts the process. At least for a while." I stood. "Why are you just telling me this now?" Langley looked tired. "Because it breaks people. Because not everyone survives the diversion. Because if you mess it up, you end up further hollowed. But you wanted a way out. I'm giving you one." That night, I lay in bed, hands clenched around the pillow, thinking about Jamie. He was my oldest friend. The kind of guy who helped you move at 7 a.m. and didn't even ask for pizza. He'd stood by me when I'd been drowning in grief after my dad died. He was my anchor. And now I was supposed to hurt him? No, I couldn't. But the dark part of me, the one just beneath the skin where the wings itched and twitched, whispered something else. "You're already hurting him. You're already changing." The next day, Jamie avoided my eyes. I don't know if he'd heard more than he let on. We didn't talk much. Just sat in the common room, watching the muted TV play highlights from last night's game. Neither of us really saw it. Eventually he stood. "I'm going to the gym," he said. I nodded. He paused at the door. "You're still you, right?" he asked. I didn't answer fast enough. By the time I looked up, he was gone. I returned to Elle. "I'm not doing it," I said. "I'm not using someone else's pain to save myself." Elle looked up from the notes she was transcribing. "Good. That surprised me. You think it's wrong too? I think it's dangerous, she said. And I think Langley's been lying. I frowned. About what? Elle leaned in. About surviving. She pulled a dusty folder from under the table. I went back through her file. Langley said she was chosen in 1991. But this, she pointed at an old ID card, was her last year of employment, 1987. I stared at the photo. Same face, same tired eyes. She wasn't chosen, Elle said. She was part of the cause. We confronted her that evening. Langley was waiting in the storage building, her back to us, facing a rusted filing cabinet. She didn't turn when we walked in. I figured it out, Elle said. Langley smiled without looking. I hoped you would. You weren't chosen, I said. You're not hollowing. No, she said. I'm not. Then what are you? She turned. I'm a bridge. Her eyes had changed. Not empty like Miriam's, not human like ours. They were bleeding. But the blood didn't run, it hovered. Suspended like ink in water, swirling in slow, silent clouds. I was the first, she said, not to be taken, to let her in. You helped her, I said. I welcomed her, because I saw what she truly was. Jamie stepped forward. And what's that? Langley grinned. Mercy. It didn't make sense. Nothing about this made sense. She kills people, I said. She hollows them out. Langley stepped closer. She frees them. From the agony of feeling, from the cruelty of memory. You think you're fighting her, but you're not. You're becoming her. That was always the point. I stumbled back. No, I'm not like her. You already are. Langley pointed to my chest. The mark. The void. You're not infected. You're becoming the next vessel. Jamie grabbed my arm. We're leaving. But Langley raised her hand. You can run, she said. But the hollowing doesn't stop. And soon you won't want it to. We left that night. I didn't speak for hours. Jamie sat beside me in the car, one hand on the wheel, the other gripping the door like it might fly open. Finally, I asked, "Do you believe her?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "I believe you're still in there. I just don't know how much longer." That night, I wrote a letter to my mom. I told her I loved her, that I was sorry I couldn't come home for Thanksgiving, and that no matter what she heard about me, she should remember one thing. I tried. Part 6. The Ones Before. It was Elle who found the lead. A mention buried in a 2009 issue of the Camden Gazette, in the obituary section. Not for the dead, but for the missing. A name, Rowan Price. Disappeared in 1994. Declared legally dead in 2004. Sighted in Colorado in 2007. Alive. Changed. She showed me the clipping. A blurry photo, grainy, yellowed, water damaged, but there was a man in it standing alone outside a cabin, turned slightly from the camera. His eyes were hidden behind dark glasses. His back curved like he was shielding something. He was like you, Elle said. And he survived? She hesitated. If you call it that. The cabin was 5 hours away. Jamie and I took turns driving. Elle stayed behind to do more research, swearing she'd call if anything new came up. Before we left, she pressed something into my hand. A smooth, flat stone, etched with a spiral. What is this? I asked. A grounding charm, she said. Old folklore. It probably won't stop anything, but it might remind you who you are. It felt warm in my hand. Warmer than I'd felt in days. We found the cabin near dusk. No mailbox. No driveway. Just tire grooves and dry dirt disappearing into the woods. The trees here were thick like they'd grown out of spite. Jamie parked the car and killed the engine. "I'll stay outside," he said. "You need to do this alone." I nodded. The cabin door was open. Inside it smelled like iron and dust. The light was dim, filtered through old curtains and the yellow haze of dusk. I stepped carefully across the warped floorboards. "Rowan?" I called. No answer, just the faint sound of breathing. Then a voice. I wondered when someone would come. He stepped out of the shadows like he'd been part of them. Thin, pale, older than the photo, maybe 50 now, but his skin looked wrong. Too smooth in places, too dry in others, like wax trying to remember how to be flesh. "You're hollowing," he said. Not a question. I nodded. Rowan pointed to a chair. "Sit, if you still can." We talked for an hour. I told him everything. He just listened, hands folded in his lap, eyes unreadable behind his dark glasses. When I finished, he said, "You're lucky. You saw her and she chose you. Most people don't get that luxury." I frowned. Luxury? To know it's coming, to prepare, to understand. Most people just vanish. Why? Because they fight in the wrong way, he said. They think they can destroy the hollow, or run, or ignore it. And you? He tapped the side of his glasses. I let her in. My stomach dropped. "You mean you became like her?" "No," he said. "I became a mirror. I didn't embrace the hollowing. I didn't reject it. I reflected it. I made myself hollow, but not empty. I didn't understand." Rowan stood, walked to a small table, and pulled a dusty photo album from beneath a pile of old clothes. He opened it. Inside were pictures of people. Some blurry, some faded. Each one with black ink smeared across the face. "These are the others," he said. "Those who were taken. Each new moon, one of us vanishes, unless someone carries the memory of the last." He turned to me. "That's the key. That's how you stay alive." I leaned forward. "You mean memory protects you?" "Memory anchors you," Rowan said. "The hollowing wants to erase, to reduce, to consume. But if you carry the pain of others, honestly, intimately, it can't fully claim you." Langley said the same thing, I muttered. "But she wanted me to take someone's pain." Rowan's face twisted. "Langley's a parasite. She feeds from others. But remembering isn't taking. It's holding." I stared at the photo album again. "I don't know these people." "Then learn them," Rowan said. "Pick one. Any one. I'll tell you their story." I chose a girl named Linnea, 16. Disappeared in 1988. Rowan told me about her music, her laugh, her fear of thunderstorms, her final night walking home from piano practice under a sky with no stars. As he spoke, I saw her in my mind, clearer than dreams, more solid than the monster inside me. And for the first time in weeks, the ache in my chest lessened, just a little. Before I left, Rowan handed me a black envelope. "Don't open it unless you feel the end coming," he said. "It's not a cure, just a reminder." "Of what?" He smiled sadly. "That you're not the last." In the car, Jamie asked how it went. "I think I have a way to fight it," I said. "But it's not easy." "Better than giving in," he said. He was right. But as we drove back through the trees, I realized something else. Miriam never had this chance. She didn't have someone like Rowan. She'd carried it all alone. And I wondered, was that why she chose me? So I wouldn't? When we got back, Elle was waiting outside my dorm. She held up her phone before I could speak. I found something else. She led us inside, pulled up an old campus database, one that had been offline for decades but recently restored through digital archives. A student paper article from 1973. Title, "Freshman Found in Ritual Circle Near Tracks." Photo, A blurry image of candles, symbols, and a pool of blood. Miriam, I whispered. She wasn't just a victim, Elle said. She was the centerpiece. Underneath the photo was a line of text that made my blood freeze. Those who offer willingly become doorways. Part 7, The Doorway. There was one more new moon, one more chance, the last maybe, and I needed to find her again. This time not to run, not to beg, not to survive, but to understand. Jamie didn't want me to go. You're not ready, he said. You've barely held yourself together since the cabin. You think you can stare her down? I have to, I said. Rowan survived because he carried memory. Elle found the truth about her. We know what she was. That doesn't mean she'll listen. She doesn't have to. I just need her to see me. Jamie clenched his fists. Then I'm going with you. No, I said. If this goes wrong, I don't want you anywhere near it. His voice cracked. You think I'm gonna just let you? I'm not asking, I said. For a long moment we stood there, both trying to stay calm, both knowing neither of us really could. Then Jamie nodded. You better come back. The tracks felt different that night. Not just colder, heavier. The trees bowed inward like witnesses, the dirt cracked with dark roots, the moonless sky stretching wide and hollow above me. Even the air had that metallic aftertaste, like breathing through blood. I waited in silence. No flashlight, no words. Just me, the charm Elle gave me clutched in my fist, and the black envelope Rowan had handed me tucked in my coat. And then, wings. Not flapping, not slicing, dragging. She stepped from the tree line like a ghost made solid. Her feet were bare, her eyes hollow. Her skin, drained of color except for the thin red trails that seeped from every pore. But her face wasn't monstrous. It was tired, so tired. Like the act of existing was killing her slowly. Miriam, I said. She flinched at the name. You remember? She whispered. I've seen what they did to you, I said. You weren't born like this. You were turned. She looked past me toward the horizon. There was nothing to see, nothing but night. I was 19, she said. Same as you. I nodded. I read the article, the ritual, the circle. It wasn't a ritual, she said. It was a key. I frowned. A key to what? She looked back at me, to the other side. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she stepped closer, and her wings slowly began to unfurl, those jagged, torn things made of bone and rot and something that had once been feathers. They didn't move like wings. They moved like arms. Why did they choose you? I asked. They didn't, she said. I was tricked, brought into the circle, promised meaning, purpose. I was lonely, angry, hollow before they made it real. And when it happened, she looked down. I didn't become a monster. I became a door. And what came through me never left. She pressed a hand to her chest. It lives here. It waits. Every new moon it wants a path back. Away and through me, or through whoever's next. I swallowed hard. And that's me now. Miriam's eyes were glassy. I never wanted that for you. The wind shifted, not toward me, not toward her, upward, like the sky itself had drawn breath. Miriam's wings twitched. It's almost time, she said. Once the new moon reaches its peak, it'll pull through me again, unless it finds a stronger vessel. Stronger? One that doesn't resist, one that opens willingly. My blood chilled. Langley, I said. Miriam nodded slowly. She wants to be the next door. That changed everything. If Langley became the new vessel, she wouldn't just host it. She'd invite it. No resistance. no hesitation, which meant no limit to how far it could reach. Then we can stop it, I said. If she hasn't finished the process yet, we can stop it. Miriam looked at me, and for a second I saw something in her face, an echo of the girl she once was. The one in the yearbook photo. The one who still believed people could be saved. I don't know if it can be stopped, she said. Then I'll be the door it can't open. I opened the envelope Rowan had given me. Inside was a single Polaroid. Not of him, not of Miriam, but of me, or something that looked like me, standing in the woods, eyes pitch black, mouth closed in a perfect line, wings curled around like a shroud. On the back were 4 words: "If you become this, burn it." Miriam reached into her sleeve and pulled something out, a small shard of glass, stained with something that shimmered like oil. "This is part of the mirror," she said. "The one that first showed me what I was, what I would become." I took it. It hummed in my palm like a second pulse. "If I don't make it," I said, "tell them I chose it. Tell them I tried." Miriam looked down. "You're stronger than I ever was." We parted at the tracks. I returned to campus alone. The sky above twisted with stars that didn't feel like ours. And somewhere in the distance, something began to stir. Part 8. Her wings at dusk. Langley wasn't hiding. She stood in the old ritual circle behind the North Chapel, arms outstretched, candles lit, symbols painted in ash and blood. Her eyes were already gone, replaced with dark hollows that leaked smoke, not tears. The transformation had begun. "You're late," she said, voice doubled like Miriam's, but just in time to witness something holy. I stepped into the circle. Behind me, Miriam stood at the edge of the trees watching. Jamie waited further back, holding a bottle of accelerant in one hand and a lighter in the other. "Just in case. You think this is holy?" I asked Langley. She smiled, her teeth too sharp now, her skin stretched too tight. "This is liberation," she said. "This world rots from the inside. Grief, pain, loneliness, why cling to it? The hollowing doesn't destroy. It cleanses. You've been consumed by it." "No," she whispered. "I invited it. There's a difference." The circle beneath her feet began to pulse, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. I felt the void stir inside my chest, answering. Miriam flinched behind me. "It's waking." Langley opened her arms wide. "Let it come." The sky above cracked. No thunder, no lightning, just silence. The kind that swallows sound like a vacuum. Even the trees held their breath. And then the wings appeared. Not Langley's, not Miriam's, something else. A shape blotted out the stars, formless yet outlined in dread. The air thickened, pressing against my lungs as if the universe itself recoiled. Langley lifted her face toward it. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, I'm ready." I stepped forward, holding the shard of glass Miriam had given me. "You want a doorway?" I asked. "Then use me." Langley froze. "What?" I pressed the shard to the black spot over my heart. "I'm already hollowing. I'm further along than you." "Don't be stupid," she hissed. "You'll lose yourself." "Maybe," I said, "but I'll take the door with me." I drove the shard into my chest. Pain like lightning split my ribs, but it wasn't the pain that broke me. It was what I saw. Every face, every memory, every person Miriam had lost, every student the hollowing had claimed, every scream that never reached the surface. I felt them. I became them. The circle cracked. The sky screamed. Langley staggered backward, clutching her head. No, he's not the vessel, he's not." I reached into my coat, pulled out the Polaroid, my future self, the thing I would become. I dropped it into the center of the circle, and Jamie through the flame, The ritual exploded in fire and ash. Langley shrieked, a sound no throat should make, as her form split, melted, twisted into something half-born and desperate. The smoke surged upward, fighting to escape, but the fire pulled it back down. The picture curled, blackened, and turned to dust. Miriam screamed, not in pain but in relief. Then the world went quiet. When I woke up, the trees were gone. The sky was pale. Miriam knelt beside me, her wings gone. Just stumps now, flesh, bone, scar. She looked human, tired, free. You closed it, she whispered. You weren't a doorway. You were a wall. I coughed, pain radiating through my chest, but something was different. The black mark was fading. I was still me, mostly. Jamie found us an hour later, covered in soot but alive. We didn't speak much on the way back. What was there to say? Weeks passed, then a month. No disappearances, no new notes, no shadows in the mirror. Just quiet, unnerving almost, but peaceful. Al left a spiral charm on my desk. No note, just that. Jamie started sleeping through the night again. And I kept the scar. Sometimes when I pass the tracks, I see her. Not the hollow, just a girl. Barefoot, hair loose, standing with her back to the wind. And I nod, because she nods back. They say horror stories are warnings. Caution signs on roads no one should travel. But I think there's something else. I think they're memorials. To those who made the hard choice. To those who stepped into the dark and didn't come out the same.
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, if the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.